Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind it.
Okay.
I was raised up on the mountain, yeah, high up on solid ground, and I had my head way up in the clouds. One day I had to come down. One day I had to come down. So I ventured to the flatlands. They just went on and on. Before I ever got to the other side, I started missing home. Started missing home. See, them people, they weren't as friendly. They'd all been traumatized by the rush of this here civilization. They all were trapped inside. So they went and they made a war so they could drive around a big old car. And they drive it all up in circles, but they never get that far. And they prey upon each other like it's some good healthy sport. And their idea of a wilderness is a condo at the resort. They only make rules that benefit the ones that lock you up. And there's not much more to say, except this whole place is damn corrupt. So I'm going back to my mountain, and there I'll spend my days. And I'll make love to my mountain girl, and I'll smoke my OG haze, and I'll live my old school ways.
Okay. Thank you, Jim. Appreciate that.
This is Mr. Henry Ford in 1941 with Popular Mechanics magazine showing off his car made from hemp.
Well, come climb the mountain with me. Come see what we can see. Come climb the mountain with me, and then we will all be free. Some men are born to lead, some men have destiny. Some men plant the seed, and some men set it free.
Here we had 92,000 cars a day, thousands of people parking behind the FBI building, and they arrested us and they said, you cannot do this. I said, well, I'm not going to pay you a fine and go on probation. So I did 15 days in prison rather than give them a $5 fine.
Wow,
You know, we had
that's kind of like telling Jesus you can't practice on Sunday.
it was a fine line.
So come climb the mountain with me, come see what we can see. Come climb the mountain with me, and then we will all be free.
Jack here and Ed Adair.
Well, hi, guys.
They must be on the hemp tour. Are you on the hemp tour?
One man said we must
We've got
hear. One man's voice was clear. One man heard the call. His vision speaks for all.
The number one plant for paper, fiber, and fuel from the natural cycle had been outlawed. That somehow the synthetic cycle had won, when the number one thing in the natural cycle could outproduce it and completely clean up the atmosphere. So my partner, Captain Ed, who had become my partner in 1973 and doing the politics of this, said we have to teach everybody in the world. So we went around and told everybody. Yeah. But it was a slow process.
So come open your eyes with me and come see what you can see. It's time for the world to know the emperor wears no clothes. Come open your eyes with me. It's time for you to see. It's time for the world to know the emperor wears no clothes. It's time for the world to know the emperor wears no clothes. The emperor wears no clothes. The emperor wears no clothes. The emperor wears no clothes.
When I was about 12 years old, I decided that I wanted to be a forensic chemist. And a forensic chemist has turned out to be a toxicologist, but it wasn't called that at that time. They were my training professor was the Oregon State chemist for many, many years, and he trained me as a toxicologist. And then when I got to medical school, I became a PhD of pharmacology and toxicology.
And you taught pharmacology and toxicology at a number of medical schools.
I taught physiology, pharmacology, and toxicology for about 10 medical schools. I was invited to East Africa, Uganda, and Tanzania, where I trained the first doctors in Tanzania.
You're at the University of Georgia,
Ohio. All over the place. I was recruited by the University of London to teach in Africa, and so just like I say, I trained the first doctors there, I was a medical school professor for 25 years. The last 3 years, I was a full-time student while I was a full-time professor.
And that was at the
Osteopathic College in Des Moines, Iowa. And the strange thing about it was that I got my osteopathic degree when I was 54 years old, and I was older than most of the teachers.
That's funny. And that's when you started being an individual practicing osteopath.
Yeah. I had got associated with Paul at a town hall meeting.
Yep, we were at KATU Channel 2's town hall.
Yeah.
And I was in the hot seat. It was just before the vote. It was the week, just 2 days or 2 days before the vote in 1998, where we were urging people to vote yes on Measure 67 for medical marijuana and no on referendum Measure 57 to recriminalize marijuana. The legislature in 97 had passed a bill to recriminalize marijuana, and we got 90,000 signatures to stop that from going into effect. A year later, we got another 120,000 to put the marijuana legalization on the ballot. So we went into this town hall. Of course, there was this one side of the studio where people largely in favor of marijuana. On the other side of the studio were people largely against marijuana. And you were right in the middle of the crowd that was against marijuana.
Well, the whole thing there were so many people pro marijuana, and I was on crutches.
Yeah.
So I had to sit on the other way. And what was the name of that attorney who was running you know who I'm talking about?
Oh,
Jack.
Oh, Jack Schweig. Oh, now that's the one in Hawaii. I can't remember his last name.
Yeah.
But Jack, he was the MC for a number of years.
Yeah, that's right. And so he wanted to know if anybody on the other side wanted to speak. And so I raised my hand.
Yeah.
And I said,
I think everybody around you thought you were about to launch into something about how terrible marijuana is.
And I says, marijuana's been used for 5,000 years as medicine and has never killed anybody. And I can see this Jack
These people start to scoot away from you. They kind of moved around. But I noted it, and as soon as that show was over, I came and invited you to co-host this show. We started this show in 1996, in late 1996. And then you came on at about show number 75 or 80.
Something like that, yeah.
And we have some clips of some of these earlier shows we're going to play here a little bit later.
With Paul Loney.
Yeah, we had Paul Loney on as a guest host, and he stayed on till about show 125 or so.
Yeah.
Then when we switched over from this private studio that Lanny Swerdlow had done the first 120 shows, you moved over to when we started to record shows here as well.
You're right.
And you stayed at it for quite a while.
Well, the first applications that I wrote were in your homes.
Yeah.
For about 3 different homes?
Yeah.
3 or 4 different homes?
What happened is if people start coming to the TV show before the show to get you to sign their papers, and it just started to be overwhelming in terms of the people coming just before the show, and so I decided to move it over to my home for a while, and that became, my kids were young then, they're young adults now, but I roll around on the floor and pick up all the food scraps and toys and stuff, but eventually we opened an office on Broadway and 45th, and we outgrew that office the day we opened it. It was too small, and so we kept going. And
in a way, my attitude is, we can complain and blame the bad guys, and we can cry around a lot about how they're not fair and things like that, but that's who they are.
Always been that way.
All right, and that's just plain simple reality.
It is what it is.
And I just think when I look at hemp, I'm specifically towards hemp, is it like they were mentioning earlier about the California Proposition 19. If that passes, see, then that's also inclusive of hemp.
Yeah, it is.
And, so there's kind of a major thing kind of happening around that part of it. But anyways, I was going to say about the hemp thing, the only thing I would add is, is like the people that really are seriously environmentally oriented, I think that there should be serious consideration of hemp. Mm-hmm. It's just at least check it out.
Yeah, I think that's the whole reason it's illegal.
And then, the reason hemp is illegal is because, marijuana was made illegal in the first place to shut down hemp.
Exactly.
That's why it was made illegal. They went after hemp through marijuana.
That's correct.
Well, now marijuana's starting to come back in, so now bring hemp back in. The same way they went after it, let's bring it back in that way. But the marijuana prohibition had everything to, it didn't have anything to do with getting high on pot. It had everything to do with hemp. Cutting down the forest and the petrochemical now going to the oil stuff, all of this had fallen into place. But anyway, so I think people that are seriously considering about being environmentalist, and I'm not challenging anything they're doing, I'm just saying, hey, if you're for real about the environment, this is earth medicine. It's renewable, it's earth medicine, and it just plain and simply is. To the medical marijuana people, let's say, all right, well, we're getting the medicine for ourselves, now let's come back and get it for the earth, because, she's the one that's giving us our medicine in the first place. But see, I'm saying out of all of this, and out of the hemp marijuana people, we should be the ones that show our dedicated loyalty to the earth. All right, and hemp is, it's really, well, anyway, it's productive and it doesn't harm the earth. You don't need the pesticides, you don't need the chemicals, realities.
Yeah, it helps regenerate the soil.
When I'm watching the Super Bowl and I see that they're saying people like me are in addition to like mowing the lawn and having some nachos, also murdered a family in Colombia. I take offense to that. Who else takes offense to that? I did not murder a family in Colombia, and it is the people that are propagating those ads that are responsible, and they're going to keep on. They're going to be. I can't even imagine how many families are going to die because of our drug war in Colombia.
War on drugs? Give me a break, man. Attention, drug war generals out there. We are fighting back, man. And unlike you drug war generals, we are non-violent. We are peaceful. You cannot and will not stop us because we are not criminals. We are Americans. We're going to make that mean something. And we're about to take our country back and put it in the hands of the people who founded this country. The hands of the people whose blood and sweat and tears and backs paved the way for us to be here today. The problem is that in our justice system, we've got too much emphasis on the system and not enough emphasis on the justice. And I ain't gonna make it, man. That's exactly why we're here today at Seattle Hempfest. That's why you came out, and we'll be vocal day after day after day, year after year after year until we've overcome and justice finally prevails.
Cannabis grower, and I have a question for George. We are having a problem in curing our cannabis to where we're trying to find a fine line between not letting it mold, but yet letting it get too dry. We keep them in the glass jars, and we do burp the glass jars because we have had some that did mold, and so to prevent the molding, we are burping the jars, but then we find that if we burp the jars too much, that it's getting too dry. So I was wondering if he had any suggestions.
Yeah, you probably have mold on it. It's probably got mold before it goes into the jar. And generally what happens, you probably have all kinds of mildew. The big one is a powdery mildew. And botrytis isn't so bad, but that's botrytis cinerea. But you can have this powdery mildew, and this year it's been horrid. We had 1 year in Spain where it was horrid, 2 years, and now it's not so bad. You have to start controlling it early on because it's a systemic thing, and it could start in your plants already, right? And you have to kill it before it gets in if you want to do it organically, because there's Bacillus subtilis. It's one of the bacillus, bacterias. And Serenade's one of the products that they use, right? And you have to put that on your plant before the mold comes. And then you have to keep that up before the mold comes. And then after that, keep other plants that are molding away, because this year it was horrid. Everything had mold. I have crepe myrtles where I was growing this year in California. And they had it, my plants got it, I kept ahead of it on some of them, did an experiment on the others. And they didn't look too well. But anyway, there's that point, you start there, and then after that, when you harvest the plants, you take all the branches, and you put them in a bucket, a container like this, full of water with, say, a 2% solution of hydrogen peroxide, yeah, H2O2. And then you soak them in there for a while. It sounds kind of funny, but you soak them in there. The mold floats up to the top. You skim that off, might take a couple of times, and then you skim that off, and then you take your plants and you lightly spray them with water. I don't know exactly what it does to the trichomes. It may beat them a little bit, but I would use like a light spray, not heavy spray, just to kind of rinse it off. And then you shake that, and then you let it dry, or you can put it in a harvesting machine, a trimming machine. But then you can put it into your container, But the second control I already gave was, when it had mold on it already. And that stuff, it's hard to see, Once you see it, it's there. It's inside the plant. You can't change that. So one of the things I've been playing with, I was playing with one of those green lights, you put on your head and walk around in the in the grow room with. We were filming I'm doing a lot of videos now, and we were filming in a grow room, and I was looking around with this green light, and you can see the mold. It sticks out.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. And so the next thing I'm going to do is get the UVC light. Not UVB, but UVC. It'll burn your eyes, but you can shine it on the mold and it'll kill it right on the plant. You know, so that's a big tip. Please pay attention.
There you go, from the master himself.
Hey, here's something I'd like to say. I just came from dinner with my friend Jeff, who wrote this book, Teeming with Microbes, and it's an excellent book, wonderful book. It's all about growing organically. You put a good biology with your soil, and you're going to grow a lot bigger plants. You're going to have way fewer problems. You're not going to have, all of these invasions to the roots and everything. The microbes will help so much.
I've been
so
using the
bacteria.
mycorrhizal enzymes for years.
Excellent.
That helps the nutrients break down and feed the roots. Those. What other microbes can you tell me
the
about?
thing is with the microbes, they make the fertilizer, the nutrients that are available, they make them available in the soil. There's already a lot of things in the soil that just are not available. To make it available is a big thing. Just because something has a big NPK number, you know, like 10, 20, 30 or whatever on the label, doesn't mean that the plant is going to use it. That plant, it doesn't use that always. Or uses a fraction of it. The main thing is to get the stuff used. And anyway, like I say, give this a shot and you'll be much happier. And the other thing is too, you know, people spend a lot for fertilizers and stuff. That's not necessary. You can grow a 10-pound plant in a 200-gallon container with good soil, and for your flowering fertilizer, you have two hands like this full of bat guano. Should have gloves on because it's poop. It's not good. But you throw that on there, and that's it. That's all you have to give for the whole year. That's it, you know. So if you fill your head with good things, you don't have to put too much on your plants. It's a very good thing.
Very good point. The big plant video that you produced, you're working on some others,
Oh,
and you've
yeah.
got that one out there on how the best way to do that. I know I'm gearing up right now to make my cuttings for this April.
Excellent.
You know, I always try to make them right around the first of the year, so they're good 3 to 5 feet tall when they go in April. And,
you know, that's what you have to remember. This plant's really, really easy to grow. You know, some people call it a weed. It grows everywhere. You know, everywhere.
It's amazing how
every
big
plant.
it will grow too.
Yeah,
you know,
exactly.
I
It
put
grows huge.
24
needs
plants
time.
in an area, and it's just jam packed. And so now I've cut it back to 9. I've seen, you know, 3 plants fill a 60 by 30 greenhouse in a season.
Yeah, that's totally possible. There's people who are growing plants, you know, 20 pounds. You know, it's very, very possible. It's not that difficult. The main thing is it takes time for it to grow that big. You know, if it doesn't have time, you know, the plants indoors, they can grow a meter high, and that's it, because the light is limiting and the pot is limiting. But when you have a plant that has plenty of soil, and there's time for the biology to take place in the soil, for the roots to absorb everything, you're going to have a lot bigger plant. And like I say, you're taking your cuttings right after Christmas, first of the year. That's what you should be doing. And you're growing cuttings too, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, but the thing is, your cuttings have been acclimated to this climate.
That's right.
This is Sunset Western Garden Book Zone 8. 8A or B, I can't remember. But, you know, that means the last average day of frost is April 15th, I think, okay? So I'm in zone 14, where I'm at in California right now. I can start a bit earlier. But the main thing is, you can put these plants outside. You got to keep them from flowering, so that means they're going to need a little light to keep it from flowering, because, you know, it's a daylight sensitive plant. But the other thing is, they're going to need heat, and that's about it. It can be raining cats and dogs outside. As long as they're warm enough, they're going to grow. Yeah, and they don't need tons of light early on in the year.
Don't give up. You know, this struggle is built on hope. You know, hemp is the hope for mankind. Cannabis is a big form of a hope for the future. And there's not been a civil rights, human rights movement that has made it this far in America that hasn't won not long after. We really are making things happen. Yes. So my message would be, keep going, ramp it up. Let's go in for the kill right now, because we're making progress. Go in for the heal.
I think that nationally the issue of legalizing marijuana is at a tipping point. I think that it's going to happen in the next several years. But I think everybody needs to redouble their efforts on making this happen, on actually making it, pushing it over the line. In spite of all the advances that have been made, we're still today arresting as many people as we've ever arrested, which is 1.8 million people a year in this country. We have an incarceration rate in this country among developed countries that is 4 times the per capita incarceration rate of number 2, which is New Zealand. That's crazy. That's insane. And what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting different results? Let's legalize marijuana. Let's start looking at the other drugs from a health standpoint rather than a criminal justice standpoint.
I would say come together right now and free the weed. That's the remix.
I just got to, like I always say, everybody got to be more educated, go out there, speak your mind, people that don't know, let them know, not everybody knows exactly what's going on right here, you know what I'm saying? People think we're coming together just to smoke and, yeah, we're here to have a good time, but we're here to educate also, to let you know that what hemp can do for us, what medical marijuana can do for their patients, and also, just go ahead, go out there, free your mind, open it up, and let people know and educate, educate yourself and others, because like I said, other people don't know what we're doing here, so.
Yeah, really, some people literally I know you think, everybody knows about hemp and marijuana or medical marijuana. I hate to tell you, no, they don't. I've traveled to Chicago, I've traveled to New York, South Carolina. When I show them footage of stuff that we do, that we come perform and do for the cause, they absolutely freak out. There's no police around. You're not being arrested. What's going on? They're smoking weed. It's crazy, but a lot of people are uneducated, and we want to educate the people. Believe it or not, I didn't graduate from high school. And look, I still learn every day of my life. Every day I learn something every day. So if I could grab that little bit of stuff that I learned and tell somebody else about it, that's how we're going to do it. And that's how I said, with our music, we could serve the masses. And like they said, no matter what, this never ceases to, to come together and always say that the children are our future. That's why I'm not talking about like real babies, but you feel me? Teenagers that are coming up, starting to experiment, and it's to educate them and let them know about hemp and how hemp could really save the world. May Jack Kerr rest in peace. I love you, dog.
Arm yourself with every ounce of knowledge that you could possibly retain. Go forward facing, I hate to say the word enemy, because really they're only an enemy if they truly know what's right and do the wrong thing. But educate your friends, educate your foe, and in return, the world will follow.
I think that it has it's not just about helping patients, it's not just about helping people who have sicknesses, it's about, it's also putting, it could put farmers back on their land. And I think that's there's so many reasons that it should be legal that I don't know where to begin.
Get active, participate. In any way that you can. You have some skill you can bring to this movement one way or the other. You don't have to have money. You don't even have to have, a high school education. It really doesn't matter. Bring whatever skills you have to the table and put them forward to move this movement forward, because it's the only way we're going to get anywhere. And even growing, even cultivation, that's part of it. It's a political act. It's just as good as standing on the stage and speaking from the stage. Just do it from the heart. Don't do it with the motivation of greed and money. Do it with the motivation of creating better medicine, better cannabis, and stick to variety. Don't get bogged down in one strain. Explore and enhance your life with the beauty of all of the different experiences that you can get from cannabis.
As it becomes, people become aware of the fact that reefer madness was just a bunch of crap, and it's a extremely useful drug, and it's been medically documented that it's good for about 200 different medical conditions, other than the first 9 or so that were what shall I say, make patients eligible in the state of Oregon. I have heard from many people, "Doctor, you have saved my life," and I think one of my poster boy patients was a Marine helicopter pilot in Vietnam. He was shot down 7 times. The last time he was in the hospital 31 months getting taken care of, and he was on something like 400 milligrams of morphine a day, which is enough to stop an elephant. And the VA would not let him use marijuana, so he told him to go fly a kite, and he came to me, and he told me several times, "Doctor, you saved my life." He was able to drop the morphine down to 60 milligrams a day because he was now able to use marijuana.
I think medical marijuana's time has come, but we also always have to be careful. There's always pushback, and we have to be ready for it, and we have to be prepared, know what we want to say, know what we want to convey to the general public so they're not afraid of us or what we're up to.
I really think we've got more Americans who have smoked marijuana than who have not. We show a majority of the Americans now favor the idea that we shouldn't treat smokers like criminals. So I think we're awfully close to a tipping point. It may come in November if California passes that initiative to legalize and regulate and tax marijuana. That is truly the beginning of the end, because other states will follow very quickly.
Get out there and put these efforts into hemp. The same energy and effort that was put into medical marijuana by the marijuana people, THC people, I think that same energy should be put into hemp. I think by putting that energy into hemp, it's more consistent, because when we go for the medical marijuana, that's just for us. When we go for the hemp, we're now repaying the earth, because it's for the earth, as well as for us, because it's healthy for the earth. We've used medical marijuana and wanted it because it's healthy for us. Well, the same thing applies. Hemp is healthy for the earth. So I would like to see the medical marijuana put some of the same intensity and energy into now getting medicine for the earth that was used to get it for ourselves.
Yes, I agree. I'd like to see hemp around the world. I think that it could be solving a lot of the world's problems.
Well, this is what I'm saying. See, a lot of people think this or that, or have opinions about it. So what we're suggesting is go check out the facts about what can really be done with it. All right? I mean, from food to clothes. Go check out the facts. See what can really be done with it, because we've got to take it from being just an abstraction, hemp, as an add-on. If we're talking about global warming, climate change, all of these things we're discussing and talking about, hemp has a tremendous impact on being able to help to balance what's happening. So we're asking people, research, check it out, and if they're in agreement, to act on it. And if they're not in agreement, well, then they're not in agreement.
Be yourself and take some time for marijuana. I'm here for the weed. This is what I always like to say. Do some things to support it. Talk to people about it. Be an activist about it, right? Go to city council meetings. Support your homies. Show up at court when somebody's got a court date. Read West Coast Cannabis magazine, westcoastcannabis.com, and hang out and do your best. We're reaching the tipping point. So if everybody can do a little more, what's the old phrase? No one can do everything, but everybody can do something. So if everybody could do just a little bit more, take an extra 15 minutes per day to pump it up, pow, we're gonna do it.
If you could say one thing to the marijuana community, what would it be? Get active. Short, but to the point. I'd like to add, guys, let's write the president. Let's follow the lead of this man and make sure that all of our warriors come home, because it's an unjust war. We all know that.
My advice to the marijuana community is get together, support the legalization of both hemp and cannabis as one thing. I know that there's a lot of like, okay, cannabis is good for this and hemp is good for this, but it's the same plant, and the fact that there's any plant that is that useful that is considered illegal by any government is criminal. And so wake up, people. We got to do it. No one's going to do it for us. So that's what I got to say.
You really have to stand up and do what's right. And I really want to thank from the bottom of my heart those activists that go beyond the call of duty, because we're pretty much all volunteers. You know, and the folks that take the time to come to these events and to sing to the choir and to teach the choir that they need to raise their voices and be heard. You know, the activists that come out here are my heroes. And if we don't stand up for what's right, no one's going to stand up for us. So we have to do this ourselves. So you really need to just do what's right. Help someone that's sick. This movement is going in a very fast pace right now. I don't want the folks to forget about the patients. Don't forget about us.
We spend too much time talking to each other. We're selling to the convinced. There's an element of our society that is the most powerful voting bloc, and that's the seniors. They're my generation. They're Woodstock. They're smokers. But they've been underground so long, they generally don't work for activism. In South Florida, where I live, they have no conception of what's being done with medical marijuana. And that's the petition we're trying to pass. When I get home, I'm starting a silver tour. I will go to the clubhouses at these hundreds of senior communities. I've got a great PowerPoint show, I've got videos, and I'm taking a doctor or a nurse to each one to answer legitimate medical questions. These people all vote, they all have their congressman's phone number, and they're not afraid to call. And it should go viral, because if they live in Golden Gates, they go to Golden Age to play cards, and they go over there to Senior Village to play bingo, and they need something to talk about. And if you talk to them about marijuana and Alzheimer's, marijuana and cancer, marijuana and MS, they have no clue. But they're going to have.
Well, you're doing it. It's happening. You know, Mark's mission to plant the seeds of freedom and overgrow the government has taken place. The roots are growing in the ground. The plant is flourishing. We're seeing things happen, and it is possible. And so you never give up, even though I myself am guilty of sometimes giving into despair and feeling like, you know, it's impossible to stop this. It keeps getting worse. There's more prisons being built and all of the horrible things that happen. Despite that, there's so much progress being made. And even if we don't see legalization in our lifetime, we have to lay the groundwork for our children and their children and for the future, because we have to do that. If we don't, we're guilty of allowing this horrible drug war to continue.
I always ask everybody this one question, sir. If you could say anything to the marijuana community, what would it be?
I used to tell them all the time, do not smoke in the rain. And many of them would ask me, why not? And I said, well, because of the rain.
Well, he signed 4 of my cards, guys, and he made me raise my hand and swear that I would not smoke in front of the police or underwater. And I didn't do either of them, I promise you. Dr. Levesque, I just want to thank you for being a great American, and thank you for being here, sir. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Because we all live under the same Constitution and the same democracy, and if we don't use our free speech, then we don't deserve to have it, you know. And people died for our right to speak out against our government when it was, when it could make things better. And it's happened before. America's had to change laws to make America a freer place. We're saying do it one more time with these cannabis laws.
Well, I know that in Seattle the sky didn't fall, and to have that amount of people there and everybody getting along like they did, it speaks volumes for the marijuana movement. I'm so pleased to be a part of it every year, and thank you for letting me be a part of it every year.
But our government can only be as effective as the people. And so voting is very very important. And people might say my vote doesn't count. Well, the vote that's never cast never is counted, and so it's important to vote. It's important to be involved. If you're not involved, you're part of the problem. Be part of the solution.
If I had to say one thing, it just have to be the educate. Everybody needs to be educated on the marijuana. It's just a plant, you know what I'm saying? That's all it is. Just educate.
We have to legalize this. We have to end prohibition. This is ridiculous that it's been on this long. We have to make a stand. Go vote.
Biggest cash crop.
Go vote. We could save this country by legalizing hemp and cannabis.
And I think it's not only good for our health and safety, it's good because it creates jobs, and by legalizing hemp, in particular, we create a whole industry because hemp is really a gold mine of resources. And as a doctor and as a nutrition wonk, I can testify that there are incredible nutritional values to hemp. There are a whole set of fatty acids that are really critical for our health that are not otherwise widely available. So there are very important nutritional and food values to hemp, as well as potential as fuel. Its value agriculturally is especially important in this day and age of climate change.
I would speak to the women in the marijuana community, and I would say to you, my sisters, it's time for us to stand up. It's time for us to protect our children. It's time for us to grow our jobs and earn a sustainable wage. Please, please talk to your sisters, talk to your moms, talk to your aunts, talk to your babysitters, and let's end cannabis prohibition, end the fear, end the tyranny, and vote yes on Measure 80 in November.
I would say walk. What would I say? I would say keep going. I would say don't make a fool of yourself. I would say don't be confrontational, but keep going. Keep going. Don't let people shut you up. Okay? Don't let people put you down. Don't let people tell you how stupid you are. Any of those things. Keep going, because it's a totally sensible thing to do. Let me ask you a question. Okay? When it was decriminalized, so to speak, here in Oregon, did the murder rate go up?
No.
That's it.
actually, violent crime actually came down.
One thing I'd like to say, which people talk about a lot, and I've said this before, but it's true. I'm not an advocate of any particular use of anything, but cannabis it's an unlocking agent, among other things. And can I be blunt? Yes. Okay, the first time I took acid, okay, way back when, because that acid makes you laugh. Okay, it doesn't allow you to, it makes you laugh. Okay, you will laugh. And the thing that is the most funny that I remember is pomposity. Pomposity is the funniest thing on the planet. Once you learn to laugh at pomposity, the game is almost up. Because they can tell you what to do and what to think and where to sit down and when to shut up and everything else with their big uniforms and their badges and their pompousness. Once you start to laugh at... So all I'm saying is that some of these things are unlockers. They unlock your creativity, they unlock your sense of humor, and they allow you to see the ludicrousness of certain kinds of superiority, okay? I don't know how to fix guitars, so I bow to the authority, in that sense of the word, of a guitar repairman when mine gets broken. That's the only definition of authority that I give any credence to. The other one, you're not an authority, you've just got a gun. You can put me away for 10 years. That's not authority, that's force. That's all that is. So if we can get things square and straight with our terminology, and we can learn to laugh at the right time, and we can understand that unlocking our brains can be dangerous to some other people. Now we understand why they don't like us. I think we'll be fine. We just keep going. We allow people to slowly but surely understand that we're not endangering them. The murder rate isn't going to go up. The world isn't going to fall apart. The earth isn't going to get hit with asteroids. The dinosaurs aren't going to come back all of a sudden. It's going to go on. We might even get some constructive things done.
It's important to think for yourself, look into the stuff, don't listen to the lies. That's what you're getting in all mainstream media. So really, think for yourself. That's really you know, get in there and study it, and you find out what the truth is. But you got to look for it to find it. And these are a good place to find it. You know, Hemp Stock here in Portland, Seattle Hemp Fest, these type of events, Normal in San Francisco, the convention there that's coming up. These are important events. The more people that make this, the sooner we change these laws, the sooner a lot of people get out of prison. And so this is what time it is.
I'm going to do a Lowell George song. It's a trucker's favorite.
One of mine, too.
All right, here we go. Warped by the rain, driven by the snow, drunk and dirty, don't you know that I'm still, Lord, I'm still. Out on the road late last night, I seen my pretty Alice in every headline. Alice, Dallas Alice, I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, to Hatchapee to Tonopah, driven every kind of rig that's ever been made, driven by the back road so would not get weighed. If you give me weed, whites, and wine, you show me a sign, I'll be willing to be moving. Kicked by the rain, driven by the sleet, had my head stoved in, but I'm still on my feet, and I'm still, Lord, I'm still. Smuggled some smoking folks from Mexico, baked by the sun every time I go to Mexico. And I'm willing, I've been from Tucson to Tucumcari, to Hatchapee to Tonopah, doing every kind of rig that's ever been made, driven by the back roads so I would not get weighed. If you give me weed, whites, and wine, you show me a sign, I'll be willing to be moving.
I work with the THCF clinic, and for me, you know, I call myself Sister Sativa and everybody laughs, but you know, I really am a priestess. I'm a totally high priestess, and I am actually trained as a Wiccan in a very radical tradition called the reclaiming tradition, where we blend our politics and our spirituality, and that's why I do this for a living, because I not only believe in it, but it's also a spiritual calling for me. And you know, Wiccans believe that the sacred is in everything, in each person, in each living thing, in the earth, even in inanimate objects, that we are all part of the sacred. And there was a very fine poem written some years ago by a woman called The Charge of the Goddess. And in there it says that, you know, It says, if that's what you seek, you find not within yourself. You will never find it without. And I guess that's what I wanted to say today, that, you know, we're all seeking. We all follow cannabis for many reasons. It's a healer in many ways. Some of us use it to heal our bodies. Some of us use it to heal our spirits, our emotions, or the wounds that we've been accumulated during our lives. But I think it's really important to use it to find your truth and to act on that truth. Over and over from this stage all weekend, people have been telling you how you can get involved. We're not just saying that because we want to, like, you know, stand up here and talk to you. We really mean it. Everybody who's involved in this movement, who you've seen up here this weekend, who you've seen out there working in the booths and making this event a reality, everybody was once just a person like you who smoked pot and thought it was cool, and you really wish it wasn't illegal, but you weren't quite sure what to do. And now we've all walked down this road, and we want you to join us, because that's how it's going to become a reality. That's how this sacrament, this thing that heals us, that keeps us going, that raises our spirits, that helps us to bond to one another, remember who we are, it's in our control to make it legal. It's in our hands, and we all have to do something. So don't just go home and think, hey, that was a really fun festival. I can hardly wait till next year, and, you know, sit down and smoke your joint and sort of forget all about it. We need you to be a part of this movement. Every single one of you have something that you can give, and I'm asking you now to give it. And I'd like to paraphrase John Kennedy when he said, ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. And I'd like to tell you, ask not what Bud can do for you. Ask what you can do for Bud. And then do it. You know, it's not right. Everybody knows about the law of karma, and we know what people, you know, what constitutes a person of character in this society. It's not right to take and take and take and never give back. We all know that. So it's time to give back. Everybody out there, I want you to think about, what can I do? Even if you have very limited money and very limited time and very limited resources, you can do something to make this movement a reality, to make real legalization, normalization, decriminalization possible, to make it a reality in our lifetimes. You know, I don't want to be 90 years old and still have not accomplished this. It's time, folks. I'm looking at every single one of you out there. I'm talking to you. Out there in the tie-dye, out there in the shorts with your sunglasses on, you, talking to you. Make it a reality. Join with your brothers and sisters. Make this a real heaven on earth, because we have the power. Blessed be.
We had about 200,000 people in the march asking for marijuana liberation, and people completely lost their fear for law enforcement. They're kind of in a complete civil disobedience concerning planting the seeds. So things are also happening there in Argentina. The government has also announced that they are looking to Uruguay as an example. So they are very respectful about the Uruguayan government, what they did this year, that was legalizing cannabis for recreational purposes and sales over the counter and distribution and production. So this is happening in this small, tiny country called Uruguay, which is surrounded by two big monsters, which is Brazil and Argentina. And we hope that the impact that Colorado and Washington brought to South America, also Uruguay, will impact their next door neighbors. And this green tsunami will not stop, because this is a green tsunami that already started here in the United States. So I want to thank you all for all this big effort that all these years you guys have done as an example for the rest of the world, this culture. And this is what we need. We need some of your culture over there to teach these people all the benefits of this plant, not only for using for recreational purposes from a harm reduction perspective, but also what it means for industrial purposes, all the jobs it can create, and how ecological it is, because cannabis is basically ecological. It doesn't need no chemicals to grow. It's better than all the pharmaceuticals and all the petrochemicals. You all know that. Okay, so I want to encourage you guys to go and vote in November for Prop 91, because as we are now after Colorado and Washington, South America is also going forward for legalization. I think this is a worldwide process, and you guys can make a difference. It will be a huge impact if you pass this law. So I want to encourage all of you to take your friends and go and vote. You know, to vote is very important. You know, in some of our countries, you know, like Argentina and Chile, we had this mean militaries who kidnapped a whole generation of us, and now we're able to vote again. You know, sometimes democracy is a lie, but it's a right. And if we can use it in the correct form, it will be a benefit for all of us.
So people often wonder, how do they grow those big trees like that? Well, they start them indoors in the middle of the winter. By the time they put them outdoors, they're already 5 feet, 6 feet tall. And so then they just grow from there. So that's the real secret to growing really huge plants. We are just about out of time. I want to thank you folks for watching. Again, we will not have a live show for the next 2 weeks. We're going to have pre-recorded shows on both the 15th and the 22nd, but we'll be back here the day after Thanksgiving on the 29th of, or the 15th, 22nd, then we're here live on the 29th of November and thereafter. So I want to thank you folks for watching. We're going to go out on a great tune by Mr. John Cornette, who wasn't feeling well enough to be here tonight, but we missed his music. So here's his song. Tune in for our recorded shows next week. And adios, amigos. I'm off to Mexico and Colombia. Help us restore hemp. Good night.
My medicine is cannabis. Woohoo! But I also call it Metaganja. Ganja. I like Metaganja. Ganja. I like to grow Metaganja. Stick it in the ground, water it down, Metaganja. Woohoo! Imagine that. Ganja. I want Metaganja. Ganja. I want to use Metaganja. For food and medicine, prohibition must end. Metaganja! Woohoo! Ganja. I like Metaganja. Ganja. I like to use Metaganja. Sometimes we get high. Yes, sometimes we do get high. Metaganja. Woo-hoo-hoo. There's nothing wrong with getting high, folks.